Okay, so in this chart, we can see that trapezoid shape for all of these vowels, and it's filled with different vowel symbols. We've already seen a couple of them. We've seen E, we've seen U, we've seen A down here, but this would be all of the different vowel symbols used by all of the human languages. Now, obviously, it would be impossible for any one language to have all of these vowels. You would barely be able to hear the difference between any of them because they're so close together. But we can recognize some of the main ones here. For right now, let's look at the different ways that we can use to describe a vowel, the different sort of dimensions or coordinates of a vowel. They're described by three things. We talk about height, which we can see on this chart is represented with close and open. So close means like your mouth is closed. When your jaw is sort of up, your mouth is closed. That kind of pushes your tongue up into that high position. So close and high would be a way of saying the same things. These vowels along the top, E, U, 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 these are all high vowels, or where your mouth is really closed when you're saying them. The ones along the bottom, ah, are open. Your mouth is very far open, and these are low vowels, meaning your tongue is like really low all of the way down. So these would be high vowels along this top row here. These would be mid vowels, these sort of two things in the middle, closed mid and open mid. And then the ones on the bottom where your mouth is all of the way open would be the low vowels. Frontness is another category. These would be front vowels aligned here. These are sort of the ones that are pronounced as far forward as your tongue can get. E, A, A. And then there's back vowels. U, O, A, A. And then there's the central vowels in the middle, things like or we don't use as many of these central vowels in English. We really only use this one, and this symbol here, which is the is actually pronounced a little bit further in English. But this central vowel space is space that could be used. It sort of is open in English, but not in a lot of languages. And then there's manner. So we have height and frontness, that's kind of like the X and the Y values. But then there's a lot of things we can do to a vowel that help distinguish it from other vowels. An important one is roundness or unroundness, and this is basically just your lips. If you say O, you'll sort of notice your lips make this O sound, O. O. Your lips are rounded for this, and so O is a rounded vowel. But then there's unrounded vowel. If you say O, and you keep your tongue in exactly the same place, but spread your lips apart, O, that's this one that's next to O. It's paired with O, And this is the sound in Mandarin that's written with the pinyin letter that looks like an E, like in the word he, which means river or to drink, he. So, O. And we see this kind of contrast between two vowels that are otherwise in the same place. They have the same height and the same frontness, just one is round, one is unround. E, U. This is made in Mandarin, ni, nu, are two different sounds, or German, i, u, are two different sounds. U. So in Korean, this is a contrast, ku, 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 ku. They're both high and both back. The only difference is whether the lips are round or unround. In French, e, e. This is sort of written a lot of times with a symbol that actually looks like this one. You have oral and nasal vowels. Oral vowels are the normal ones. They're pronounced with the air going out through your mouth. They don't have anything special about them. A, O, U. But if you see this tilde over them, this little hat, this means that the vowels are pronounced with air going through your nose, like on, un. So in French, chat means cat, chant means song. It's the same vowel. It's this kind of lowish front vowel, but one, the air is going through the mouth, one, the air is going through the nose. I'm from the Midwest of the United States, and people make fun of our accent being nasal. nay, eh. So I have this A vowel, but it's going through my nose when I say that. Nasal. And then there's long and short, which is represented, length is represented with this kind of semicolon after it, or I guess it's a colon. So without it would be a short vowel. Is a long vowel. These dots kind of represent that it's being dragged out. E, e. And in some languages that becomes a very important vowel contrast as well, whether something is short or whether something is long. In this graph we can see 8 vowels which are used. This is a graph for British English, but we can see that the front vowels kind of here, they added a z-axis to it where it's unrounded if it's close to us in the screen, and it's a rounded vowel if it's in the back. You can see e, a, a. Even though we call them unrounded, your lips are getting slightly more rounded. It's moving slightly further to the back here. And then the back vowels, a, o, u. By the time you get to u, your lips are about as rounded as they can be. So these front vowels tend to be considered unrounded, even though the low ones are a little bit more rounded. The back vowels, these ones are considered to be rounded, even though the low one is a little bit more unrounded. The difference between a and ah, there's not that much difference in rounding, actually. So these would be the sort of main vowels that we would have in a standard analysis of American English. If you're from the American West, you may not have all of these vowels. For you, and are probably merged together into a single vowel right about here. This would be Don, Dawn. I make a clear difference between the man's name Don, the girl's name Dawn, but someone from the west of the United States might just say Dawn, halfway in between. I can hawk the family jewels, or I can see a hawk flying in the sky, but someone from the west would just hear a single vowel, which is a low back vowel, hawk. Or cot is the thing I sleep on, and I caught a fish. Caught, 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 caught. Those are two very different vowels for me. But again, someone from the West might just say caught. I sleep on a cot, and I caught a fish, and it would sound exactly the same. What we see here, there's this kind of gray area in the middle, and there's 4 vowels that are outside of it. These are called tense vowels. It's tense because your tongue is really reaching. To get all the way up to E or all the way out to this A, your tongue is stretched pretty tight. The muscles in the tongue are tense. And compared to E, which is a high front vowel, I is also a high front vowel, but your tongue is more relaxed. It doesn't have as far to stretch. So E, I, E, I, A. And same in the back. To push all the way back up to oo, ooh, So this would be Luke, look, or oh, ah, oh, ah. Boat, bought. So we have these 4 vowels which we call tense, and this is really only used in describing English to make this contrast between E and I, A and E. Actually, you could say the contrast is one of both frontness, that these vowels I, U, the lax vowels, are not as far front or not as far back, and they're also a little lower than their pair. But this combination of lowness, a little bit more central, is what we call tense versus lax distinctions. And there are very few languages in the world that make this distinction between tense versus lax vowels. So this is very difficult for English learners who at least want to have a standard American or a standard British accent to get correctly, because it's not a contrast that's used very often in the languages of the world. Another weird thing about English that makes it hard to learn is that we have a pretty crowded vowel space. If you remember on that back chart, there was actually 11 different cardinal vowels, and then there was the schwa, the thing that looks like an upside down E, which is right in the middle of the mouth. That's not considered a cardinal vowel. That's more what other vowels become when they're in an unstressed syllable, in an unstressed position. And of those 11 vowels we have, there's actually 5 of them here arrayed along the front. From the highest one, E, this high front tense vowel, and then I, the high front lax vowel, A, this sort of mid front tense vowel, E, a mid front lax vowel, and then A, which is a low front lax vowel, but there isn't a low front tense vowel, so just the low front vowel. But actually, if we say words that we keep the consonants the same and we just change the vowel, beat, bit, bait, bet, bat, e, I, a, e, I, a. It's interesting. If you put your tongue or your fingers underneath your chin and you say these 5 words, you'll actually feel your jaw going down along with your tongue. Your jaw has to move down to make room for your tongue. Beat, bit, bait, bet, bat. E, I, a. Beat, bit, bait, bet, bat. E, I, a. You actually feel the jaw lowering, and that's kind of what we mean. The E is a high vowel. It's also called a closed vowel. And then A is a low vowel or open because your jaw is all the way open by then. It's all the way lowered. So that's kind of the English vowel space, but other languages have different. So in French, we have a lot of front vowels as well, not nearly as many. E, A, E. So we have a contrast too between the unrounded and the rounded version. E, U, A, E, E. And then they have a central low vowel, A, and then and in the back they have U, O, A. And these black ones are ones that occur in certain dialects or in certain positions. So you get nasal vowels here, and on. Like bon. So bon with this vowel through the mouth means beautiful. Bon with this vowel through the nose means good. Italian only has 7 vowels, E, A, U, O, A. So these front vowels, which are all unrounded, the back vowels, which are all rounded, and then this low central vowel. Spanish has what's considered the most typical or the prototypical vowel system, E, A, O, U. It's so typical that these vowels, which are used for writing Spanish, are actually the International Phonetic Alphabet's vowels. So if you're wondering or you're curious what sound an IPA vowel makes, if you think about it as the Spanish pronunciation, so the letter I would be making an E sound, like quesadilla. The letter E would be making an A sound, like queso. The A would be making an A sound, like taco or nacho, not A. You don't say taco. O would be making the O sound, and U would be making the U sound always. Arabic only has 3 vowels, which is actually another common vowel system in the world's languages. The nice thing about 3 vowels is that these vowels are very far apart. The problem is that you only have 3 vowels. So Arabic has a contrast between short and long. E and E would mean 2 different things. U. So the length of the vowel becomes important in Arabic. Turkish has 8 vowels, E, U, A, U, O. And Mandarin Chinese, you might be thinking, wait a minute, there's much more than 6 vowels in Mandarin Chinese. That's true, but many of the vowels in Mandarin Chinese are actually diphthongs. These are the only 6 which are pure vowels in Mandarin Chinese. We have E like ni, U like nu, A like ma, U, bu, like he. And then the E, which is in an unstressed syllable, like de, like 我的朋友是. So 我的, this de would be a schwa here in the middle. And then you'll notice, well, what about things like the O and wo? Well, that's technically a diphthong, and that's what we'll talk about in the next